far more powerful way of selecting objects on the screen is to use the Lasso tool. It's much more advanced than the Marquee tool, and we start off with the freehand lasso. That's basically doing exactly what it says. It allows you to draw freehand around objects that are like this cloud here. They've got a very sort of irregular edge to them, and they've got a nice blue surrounding to them as well, so we could then go to edit, copy, and edit, paste, and move the new selection somewhere up here like that. Okay, so there's still some blue edges around there, but that gives you an idea about how the selection actually works. It's very rough and ready, but it's good for sort of organic, irregular shapes. It's not the normal way I would select a complicated shape, but it is very good for very rough and ready selections like this. It's quite hard to draw around more complicated shapes freehand, and the other disadvantage of it is once you're drawing and you let go, it automatically joins up with the start point and you have to start again. So if you were drawing around a person, for example, and you made a mistake, there's nothing really you can do about it. It's done. So it's just a rough and ready tool, really. It's not something I'd use for complicated operations, but that's that's how it works. A little bit more useful is the Polygonal Lasoo tool. Now let me just open up an image from the cover CD. I'm going to go for this example here. Say you were doing a pack shot. Now it will be quite tricky to use the freehand tool to draw around this. It's just not going to work, is it? Really, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. But the Polygonal Lasoo tool is much better because it's like a kind of elasticated tool. You can start at a point like the corner here, and as you draw, I'm letting go of the mouse, and it's not making the selection, it's not snapping back, it's just quite happily waiting for me to make the next selection here. So if you click again, there you go, it's anchored the selection there. Now it's kind of pinning down a bit of elastic to a board almost. So this is a much more useful and sensible tool. So click again, there we go, and at my leisure, I'm holding space to move down here. At my leisure I can click and make the points, and this is a much more commonly used tool, especially for things like, hold the space bar again and click drag, pack shots and isolating sort of rectangular or objects with sort of very long and straight edges. Okay, so that's quite handy indeed. I'm just sort of clicking to place a few points here and then back to the top again. Once we get to the very first point, the selection is completed. I can then, like with any selection at all, I can inverse that by going select inverse, and then if I just double click on the thumbnail here to make it editable, I can hit backspace and then Command D to deselect the selection, and there we have our isolated pack shot. So I could, if I was selling that software on eBay, which I'm not, by the way, then I've got a nice little pack shot using the Polygonal Lasoo tool. Now the Magnetic Lasso tool is even more nifty indeed. So let's choose another image for that. Let me just close this one up, don't need that anymore. And let's pick, let's go for the kitty cat. Now let's open up here, hit tab to hide the options here. Now the Magnetic Lasso tool is a great tool. So let's make sure we've got it selected. And what this does is it clings to the edge of your selection. It basically looks at the difference in colour and contrast, and instead of having to click, 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 click to place points like the Polygonal Lasso tool, or to try and draw it all by hand using the freehand Lasso tool, this sticks like glue to the difference in contrast. So I'm going to click to start. As I draw, it's sort of sticking to the bits of the kitty that are different to the coloured bits of carpet at the back there. So I'm moving quite fast here, and it's working out the line that I want to keep. So it's also putting down anchor points there. I'm just going to double click to stop that selection for the moment, and Command E to deselect it. I'm going to hit tab just to show you that you can edit the contrast of that tool and make it more or less sensitive to changes in contrast. Let's go to 40%. Frequency just means the amount of anchor points it's placing down, so that should be fine for something that's sort of smooth as the kitty here. It's quite a lot of straight lines and curves to it, but it's not terribly complicated. So I've increased the contrast there, so let's see if that makes any difference to my selection. That's working a little bit better actually. If you make a mistake and get lost, then just move back to the original anchor point again. If you really foul up, double click and then deselect. I'm going to take that frequency down, actually that edge contrast I should say, to try 20%, and let's see if that makes it less or more sensitive. Yep, that seems to be finding the difference between the cat and the carpet a little bit better. So you need to experiment really with just hold the spacebar down to move the image around. Let's carry on. So this would be a bit of a nightmare, this cutting out job using the freehand lasso tool, but because it's magnetic, this one, it's doing a very nice job indeed. So we'll carry on drawing around the cat. Let's take him down to here. I'll do this all in real time just to show you how quick it would be. If you want to force an anchor point, just click and it will place one for you, which is quite handy when you get to areas like that bit of carpet there. And again, corners like this bit here, just to give it a little bit of a hand. But on the whole, all these little squares that it's placing are being placed automatically. So the more work Photoshop does, the less work you have to do, which is very useful indeed. Okay, again we're going to change direction here, so I'll just place a little anchor point there, down its fluffy leg, and right down to the bottom here. I took this photograph because I plan to do a shot of a guy juggling. He's juggling with fire at the moment, but I'm going to replace the fire with cats. I don't know quite why I'm going to do that, but hopefully I'm going to sell it to one of the magazines, and we'll have a juggling cat picture. I may be the only person that finds that interesting, but I think it could be quite useful to do. But here's a preview of one of the stars of that image. Okay, so we're nearly finished there now. Down to the tail, and then click just at the edge there, and we're almost at the beginning, so we click to complete the selection. There it is. Then let's just double click on the cat, hit return. It's now editable, and I'm going to inverse the selection, hit backspace, and we've isolated the kitty from the background. I could hit Command Z, and then let's just have a quick look. Let's just Command H to hide that selection. If we just go and zoom in a bit, you can see there's a little hint of carpet around the edge of the cat there. So let's just Command H to have a look at that. Now what we want to do really is to try and modify that selection. So we're going to select modify. What we can do is contract the selection, okay, because of that little hint of carpet we had. If we contract it by, say, let's do an exaggerated 2 pixels, what it'll do is it'll shrink in tighter to the kitty. It's done exactly the opposite, so let's Command Z to and do the opposite ourselves. So we'll go to modify, expand. Oh, it's because I inversed the selection, so I inversed what it's doing. Okay, so let's go expand by 2 pixels, and now you see it shrinking in to the cat. And if I shrink in even more, then let's just do that again. Modify, expand by another 2. So you can see it biting in even further into the cat. I could also right click and do a feather, and let's just do 2 pixels to give it a bit of a soft edge. So it's sort of nipped in there now. Now I think I probably have to inverse that again. Let me just hit backspace. Nope, it's inversed already, so it's basically, by hitting backspace, it's deleted that 2 pixel selection there that we tightened into the cat. So now when I do Command H, we've lost the blue fringe there, and because it's feathered, we've also got a nice soft edge as well. So we've cut out a complicated furry kitty shape, and we've hidden all the extra bits of carpet by modifying the selection. So this is very, very useful indeed to know about the lasso tool. Once you've used it, You can expand the pixels or contract them, just to fine tune the edges of your selection, because quite often you will get a bit of a fringe around there. Okay, so hopefully that's given you a lot more information on the Lasoo tool than you knew, and definitely it's well worth playing with the magnetic Lasoo tool. So have a go with that cat yourself, and see how great it is. Okay, see you in the next movie.